There, I'm vocal coach Debbie, and I teach you to find your voice at vocalcoachdebbie.com. And welcome to episode 2, where I'm going to talk about breathing and some breath techniques that you can try anytime. And that when you improve breathing and breath techniques, it can be great for anything from singing to public speaking. So I use my breath techniques that I learned as a singer also in public speaking, in audiobook narration. It just comes in handy all over the place. So hopefully you will find a great use for it, maybe with singing. If you're watching live, tell me more about what you sing. If you're watching it later on YouTube, please give a like and a subscribe and tell me in the comments what you like to sing. So when we think about breathing, and first of all, I want to mention quickly before I get super started, if you have any lung or breathing issues, if you have health issues that affect your breathing, if you have long COVID, obviously a lot of my advice might not be right for you. So if you do have any lung problems, lung diseases, please make sure you're working with your doctor on your breathing and not necessarily listening to me. I am not a medical professional in any way. Okay, great. That's out of the way. So why does breathing matter? Well, breathing matters when we hear weird or not great breathing in a song. For example, if I went, "Happy birthday to you, happy birthday to you." Okay, sounds like I'm not really in control of my breath. Maybe I'm not sure where to breathe or how to breathe. It's okay sometimes if your breathing is a little bit loud. You won't always be using a condenser mic like I have in my studio. And then I also have plugins when I'm recording that can take out and decrease the breath sounds. Those work pretty well. I use D-Breath, which I think is from Waves, hashtag not sponsored. So check out things like that. But if you were on stage and you've got a mic and you're here, usually it doesn't pick up too much of the breathing sound unless you're really doing, you're right on top of it and you're making large breathy sounds. And also, if you think about opera singers, very often people think that opera singers are just fat, and some are, and that's cool too. But in many cases, they have been developing their breathing and their lungs so much for so long. And sometimes swimmers and divers, they can sometimes be larger in that chest area because of their increased lung capacity. Also think about breathing like playing a guitar. If the guitar were kind of vertical. If the guitar were vertical, up here you'd have the fretboard and you're choosing the notes. That's like your larynx here in your throat. That this is where the notes are chosen. They're really chosen in your brain, but your brain tells your larynx how to open and close and shape itself so that you pick a note, and then the support is way down here in your stomach diaphragm area. So it's not the stomach where your food is, it's that diaphragm muscle. And you are familiar with those muscles, your abdominal muscles. If you have done any sort of workouts or training that focused on your core or focused on like sit-ups, then you are definitely familiar with that muscle. May I be a little bit weird and say it's sometimes the muscle you might really use if you're pooping. So think about singing as not necessarily coming from here. Sometimes people say to me, I'm singing and at the end of it, my throat hurts. I'm really straining. And sometimes that can be improved with better breath technique. If you can push the sound out with those abdominal and diaphragm muscles, then you don't have to push so hard from your throat. So it's definitely something to experiment with and try learning and work on. So I want to give another example of some breathing that I think is really weird. And it's one of my all-time favorite songs from one of my all-time favorite albums. And yet, every time I hear it, it's distracting to me. Maybe you'll think it's great, but it's distracting to me. And the line goes something like this, and I'll breathe where the singer breathes. And tell me what you think of it. So they've got a good breath in, they're ready to start, and the line goes, one look at you, and you light up the sky and my emotion. Okay, I didn't sing that fantastically great. It's midnight where I am. My voice is not at its best at midnight. But didn't the breaths seem a little weird to you? If you were saying that sentence to someone, you probably wouldn't say, one look at you, and you light up the sky and my emotion. So it just seems weird. I know when I was in high school choir, they always encouraged us to try as much as possible on one breath to sing as much as possible of what would be a logical phrase or sentence or part of a sentence that you would say to someone. So I could imagine one look at you, breath, and you light up the sky with my emotion, without another breath in there. Now, I don't know why the singer took a breath there. Did they think that that was an artistic choice? My emotion. You know, maybe they imagine the character is so in love and so daydreamy that they're just taking it all in. Hey, that's an artistic choice. But I also wonder, did that singer have trouble holding that whole line all the way through? So sometimes we breathe in different or weird or interesting places because it's an artistic choice, and sometimes because we just need air. So I'm going to breathe a little extra loud today so you can get a better sense of where I'm taking breaths rather than trying to do small breaths like that one just was. I'm going to do bigger, louder ones so you can hear where it's falling. And you can hear as I'm speaking that I'm able to give you longer sentences without taking a breath, or I can breathe when I want to because I've got plenty of air left and I don't have to breathe if I don't want to. Or if I want to make a point, I can always make a little bit of a pause, take a small breath there, and keep going. You always want to make sure you have enough breath and energy to make it through whatever sentence you're speaking or whatever line you're singing. And you can always steal little breaths like I just did. I made that one louder. You can steal little breaths here and there and then keep going, even if people don't know that you've taken a little breath. And if you really don't want them to know, if it's pre-recorded, you can always pull that out. So let's also talk, let me check my list of things I want to talk about. Yes, I want to talk a little bit about how when I do warm-ups for singing and sometimes for speaking, I will go over to my workout bench, which is on the other side of the house, so you can't see it here. And I will usually try to do things with weights that activate my core muscles. So again, I'll stand up on my chair. So all of these muscles here in the middle here, the poo squeezing muscles, the diaphragm muscle. Sometimes if you ever watch a professional singer or an opera singer really closely, you'll notice that when they breathe in, it goes right to their bellies. Their bellies get big. And that's the kind of breathing we also often bump into with yoga or meditations, where you might hear in a guided meditation that you should breathe in and imagine it's filling up your belly. It's a very different breath than how we sometimes breathe in kind of a more shallow way. So if you watch my body for a moment, if I breathe in a shallow way, you might see people's shoulders go up. You might see their chest move because they're kind of breathing into up here. Well, you can create a lot more breath support if you breathe in way down here. You can even put your hands on your belly or your belly button, and when you breathe in, really push it out there. And that might look weird to you. It may be a technique you change over time, but that is how many singers are taught to breathe, that we're imagining we're filling up this huge area of our body with air, not just this top area up here, where we're just breathing in more shallowly up here. We're really doing a big breath, whether you choose to breathe in with your nose or your mouth. Filling up all in here. And again, you can put your hands in the middle of your belly. You could put them on the sides. But if I do that again, so that's kind of the effect you're going for. So as I was saying, to help activate those muscles, before I even start singing, I'll usually go to my workout bench and I'll pick up some weights. Doesn't have to be heavy weights because it's not a big muscle workout. Sometimes I've got 4 kilogram weights, which is about 9 pounds. You can use less. You can use more. There's no magic number here. You can use cans of corn. But I try to get a little bit of weight in there, and then I try to move around with it a little bit, almost like twisting side to side, just trying to activate those core, abdominal, diaphragm muscles, warm them up with some exercise. I might also go over to my workout bench, or you could put a towel or a yoga mat on the floor, and I do some crunch style sit-ups, where sometimes I've got my legs up in kind of what we call a tabletop position, kind of a right angle where my knees are here and my feet go out. And I am doing sit-ups, or sometimes I am trying to hold my legs out and lift them up and down. Again, all exercises, any exercises you can find that are designed for core and abdominal muscles, honestly, will really help your singing. You'll be surprised. And then sometimes while I'm on my workout bench and I'm doing that abdominal exercise, I will start doing singing warm-ups so that my body puts it all together, that I put the active core muscle and the breathing with even singing a song that I like, or just simple vocal warm-ups like or whatever you want to do as a vocal warm-up. We'll do warm-ups in another show. But work on getting those muscles engaged, and work on thinking about how breathing in can really fill all of this area of your body, the whole torso, and breathe into your belly to have... Oh, it'll feel so different. You'll really feel full of air versus that shallow breathing. You can do that yourself as a practice. Do a little like you're sipping it in through a straw. You'll feel like, maybe I got a little bit down here, but I got a lot of it up here. And you want to make sure that however you breathe, nose, mouth, up to you, that you're really filling it in down here. Because then when you are singing, you use those muscles again to control pushing the sound out. So what would that look or sound like? Well, if I breathe very shallowly or I don't breathe a lot, then I might not have a lot of air to sing a long line or hold a long note or even go up very high. Things that really need that support and that power. The breathing and the muscles are the powerhouse of your singing. So, for example, if I just breathe in a little shallow breath and then try to sing something, and again, my voice isn't fantastic, but we could pick anything. So let's see. Nope, I accidentally breathed in with my abdomen because I'm so used to that. Happy birthday to you, happy birthday to you, happy birthday, dear listener, happy birthday to you. Okay, you could hear at the end there, I was really running out of air. And I had to take this big breath in when I was done. And you might have felt that way too sometimes when you sang. And the answer is to do more practice and training to take a bigger breath, but also not just a bigger breath, but a bigger breath that you can control. You have control of how it goes out of your body. So if I take a much bigger breath and try the same thing. Happy birthday to you, happy birthday to you, happy birthday person watching this, happy birthday to you, happy birthday to you, happy birthday to you. So I got 1.5 happy birthdays out on that one breath, and that's already an improvement. So let's talk about some of the exercises that I learned many years ago in voice lessons about trying to control our breath a little bit more. So we've talked about where we want to place it when we are breathing. Some people like to breathe in through their mouths. Some people like to breathe in through their nose. Up to you. Again, try different things, experiment, see which one gives you more power and control and support, and based on your microphone or where you're singing, which one makes more sense for your environment. So, for example, one exercise that I like to teach people is, let's say we have a beat. You could make a faster beat, a slower beat. You could get out a metronome or something else and try breathing in for 2 counts and breathing out for 4. And if that's going pretty well, now again, if you do too much of it, if you feel lightheaded, sit down, stop, pause your exercises. Do not fall over for your exercises. But try breathing in for 2, try breathing out for 4. If you feel like you've got 4 going pretty well, can you breathe out for 6? Okay, a little bit of a challenge. Okay, if you got that, can you breathe out for 8? So remember, you're always trying to see how much you control your breath. So let's do an example. Let's imagine our beat is 1, 2, 3, 4. And I might not keep perfect time. If I really cared about that, I could have a metronome or a clicker. But let's pretend we've got that. So I'm going to breathe in for 2 counts, and then I'm going to breathe out for 4. Okay, that wasn't so bad, right? Breathe in for 2, breathe out for 4. We could try a breath in with our mouth, see if that's any different. So here's why I don't do that. I find that as soon as I start breathing in with my mouth, this may or may not be true for you, my mouth and my throat get really dry. That air floating over them just dries them out. And I don't want that to happen. And you'll hear, even when I'm talking to you, probably 2/3 of my breaths are through my nose and some really short ones. That one's from my nose. I might do a short one from my mouth, but I'm always worried about drying out my mouth or my throat. So let's try the exercise again. Let's try breathing in for 2, breathing out for 6. If you can't do that yet, don't worry about it. I've been practicing for decades. You'll get there. You just have to keep practicing. So let's get our beat again. We're going to breathe in for 2 and try breathing out for 6. Okay, let it all out. And if you're going, oh, I didn't quite make 6. All right, try putting those hands on your belly, belly button or sides. Make sure when you breathe in, your hands are really moving because you're really taking those 2 beats to fill that up with air. So you should feel like your hands are really going out. And then you can do it. Let's try 6 again. And again, if you're not there yet, go to 4, go to 5, go to whatever works for you. Oops. There you go. We could go for 8. Who wants to challenge themselves right now? Let's try 8. And on and on. You can go as long as you want. And remember, what am I doing here that's different or interesting? I'm controlling the breath. I'm saying, oh, I have to kind of meter this out over 4 counts, 8 counts, however long your note is. So that means I don't go, oh no, I'm out of it. And so notice that the technique here is to be very even with the breath out, not wasting it or shooting it out all at once. Something that's a more even flow of the breath and not just blowing it out as hard as you can. I think that's a really important lesson for singing, public speaking too, but also definitely for singing. Getting that, when you hear people talk about breath control, this is a major part of that, to be able to breathe in a controlled way, filling up the abdomen and that whole torso, and then pushing out the sound in a more controlled way. And another way you can practice this is with a sh sound or a s sound. So let's try that again. Let's try 4 counts with a sh sound and try to make your sh really even. Don't go like shh. Don't try to push all the air out. See how even you can stay with that pushing out of the air. So we'll try it again. We'll count 4 and then we'll breathe in on 2 and shh on 4. So you can hear, for me, that was very even. I've worked very hard to have good control over my breathing and the sounds that I make, and now that was 4. We could try 6, 10, whatever number you like. It's all a challenge, and it's all a matter of continuing to challenge yourself. So let's try 8, just for fun. Let's see if you can do it. If you can't, don't worry about it. You'll get there with practice. Nope, I'm not going to breathe in yet. Shh. So that's 8. And this is something you could do waiting in line, standing in the shower. You can practice this anywhere. You don't have to be in a fancy booth in front of a microphone. You can do this anywhere. You're stuck in traffic. 8. Good job. Very good. Now take some normal breaths. Don't get lightheaded. Sing a song, whatever. When you're feeling more confident and you've done some good sh sounds, you can also practice with S sounds. But one thing that we used to learn in voice lessons was to try S with a little bit more force. So the sh sound is nice for an even thing, to see how long you can hold it. I could probably do 20, maybe more, maybe less, I don't know. But the S sound is something that you can try in a different way. So for example, now that was 10 S's, but I wasn't taking breaths in between. I was using the breath that I stored to do all of those S sounds. Maybe you can only start with 4 S sounds before you feel like you're out of breath. Totally fine. Do not pass out doing these exercises. Maybe next time you'll be able to get to 5. Maybe you'll be able to get to 6. There's always a new goal you can create for yourself. So we can do those S sounds again. That was 8. And again, I'm pushing each one from my abdomen like I'm doing crunch sit-ups. And if it helps you, you could get on your workbench, your exercise bench, you could put your legs up, you could do this on the ground doing sit-ups, you could sometimes I stay in a sit-up position where my core is really active and I'll do really activating those stomach muscles, those six-pack muscles. Maybe it's your 6S muscles. So think about the S exercises and the sh exercises. You don't have to have a note. You don't have to have a song. You are just trying different ways to control your breath. Why? Because eventually you can turn that into notes and sounds. So for example, the S could become a ha sound or a ma sound. So for example, you could do ma, 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 or you could do some short ones and some long ones. Ma, 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 ma. Any combination of any sounds or notes, doesn't matter what you're singing or what sounds you're making. We're just trying to see, can we control our breath? Can we control it when it comes in? And can we control how it goes out? So that we don't show up to a microphone or a song or a church or anywhere else and immediately take a breath in and blow it all out on our first few notes. Happy birthday to you. Oh, now I'm out of breath. And we've all done something like that. And then we said, ooh, how do I get more control of my breath? So you could turn things into sounds. You could turn things into long held notes and see how you do. Okay, that was 20, and I had a lot more in there. Why? Because I was really working on controlling that breath and how much was going to come out. I can send a lot out with my notes, or I can send a little out. That's what you're practicing. Can you control that? So what if I want to send a lot of breath out? Maybe I want a very breathy sound. Maybe it's a dreamy song, a romantic song. A song sung sometimes by a younger person sounds breathy. Sometimes a song sung by an older person can sound breathy. So what if we want to have more of a breathy sound? So we might do... You can't hold those notes as long because you're sending so much of that breath out to make that artistic choice, to make that interpretation choice where you're going to send more breath out with those notes. But it's still worth that practice. What can you do when you are sending more breath out? Can you hold that note? What about if you're not sending as much breath out and you have a much more focused sound? We're going to talk in a later episode about different types of sounds and tones and timbres that you can create. So for example, I might change my timbre as I go without changing my note. And again, some of that's breath, some of that is holding a note, some of that is different sounds we can learn to make, different shapes we can create with the sound. Your sound could have a very focused sound, almost like you're taking a hearing test, or it could have a very round sound. And you do that with different shapes in your mouth, movement of your tongue, whether or not air is coming out of your nose, shapes you're making with your larynx. So again, all of these take time and practice to work with, and we'll have a future episode on some of that. Today we're thinking about breath. So again, get some sort of clicker, counter, metronome for yourself. something at that speed maybe. Doesn't have to be too fast. And just breathing in on 2. Now, why breathe in on 2? When sometimes you see exercises that say breathe in on 4. Because we don't always have 4 beats to take a breath. Sometimes there isn't a lot of space between the lines that we want to sing. And it's good practice to learn to take breaths in shorter periods of time. If you get good at taking a breath in on a count of 2, and then being able to hold that for 8, 10, 12, 16, whatever it might be, then maybe you want to try, how much can I do when I really have a very small space between these musical lines and I'm going to have to take a breath worth 1 beat? So it might sound like this. Now again, I took a giant, loud-sounding breath, and when you have a condenser mic like this, oh boy, it's going to pick it up. Now, if anyone's ever seen the Chocolate Rain video, which went viral many, many years ago, you saw the guy going over here to breathe and then coming back to his microphone to sing, hoping that the microphone wouldn't pick up the breathing if he's over here. But the reality is that when you buy some of the better, more sensitive mics, a lot of people use a Shure SM7B. That's the mic you see a lot of singers and podcasters use. I think it runs around $300-something. This is an Audio-Technica AT4040. I like it because I think it's a little warmer than the Shure SM7B, but it sure picks up a lot more room noise. Like, listen to this. Right? You can hear that. You can hear my earrings. Right? You can probably pick that up, especially if you're wearing headphones. You might even hear me toss my hair. And so we do have to be careful when we have a very sensitive microphone. And there are ways to try to adjust that with some studio effects. We'll talk about studio effects in a later episode. This is only episode 2. But we, and again, if it's pre-recorded, we can take our breaths out or make them sound quieter. If we are live streaming, then we have to make an artistic choice. Do we want people to hear our breathing? A lot of the records and music, see how old I am? A lot of the records and music that I listen to, I think they leave a lot of breaths in. Like the one I started out talking about, you can hear her saying, "One look at you, and you light up the sky and my emotion." So you can hear those breaths. They didn't take them out. They're not just blank space where nothing happened. You can hear the breaths. It's your artistic decision, or maybe your producer's artistic decision, if we let breaths stay in and how loud they are. So you definitely want to get better first just at breathing. Worry later about, okay, can I work on making my breath quieter? Because obviously if I want to take in a very fast breath, I'm likely to go, well, that's pretty loud. And you may or may not want that. You may end up being like the Chocolate Rain guy and going, and hoping that it doesn't pick it up so loud, and maybe try to take it out later of the recording. But I think for now, don't worry too much about a loud breath, especially if you're going to do a lot of live singing and you've got a regular microphone here that is designed to pick up just what's in front of it and may not pick up your breathing as much. Or sometimes you'll see a singer do that. You know, it looks like they're really into it. They're waving their hands and arms. They've taken the mic over here. They're doing this. You're less likely to hear a breath sound. Notice how much quieter my breath sound is than my voice. Much, much quieter. So especially if you've got a live singing microphone, like a handheld microphone, and it's way out over here, you're definitely going to have fewer breaths. But again, also some things you can do with headset mics. There's so much you can do. But a lot of singers will try to train to the point eventually where they are taking very quiet breaths. And I find that I'm better at that when I have more time. If you give me a count of 2, 3, 4, then I can go, So I just took a breath across all 4 counts. Did you hear it? Maybe very little. We'll do it again, and I'll show you filling up my belly. So let's see. You probably didn't hear that very much outside of me bumping into my microphone. So if you give me more time, I can take that breath more slowly. I can really bring it into my body, and I don't have to make a weird loud sound. But if you give me less time, I might make more sound, and I probably just need to practice more to make less sound. So it's something that you'll have to work on if that matters to you. If it doesn't matter to you for where you're singing, you're not using a mic, the audience is in a church or a chapel or whatever, they can't hear you breathing from where you are, or you don't care. That's also fine. So for now, don't worry about how loud your breathing is. You can always try to make it quieter over time. Let's see, where are we time-wise? Okay, we've gone about a half hour. So remember, make sure you're doing some of your practice. Practice it every day if you can, and multiple times a day. There is no, you can't practice breathing too much. And again, these are things I'm also using in my public speaking. I'm speaking to you now. I'm using my voice and breathing techniques to speak to you. I can stop and take a long breath like that. Or I can take a shorter breath and I can create a longer sentence, maybe sneak in a short breath or a very short breath with my mouth like that, where maybe you heard it a little bit, but I'm taking very short breaths with my mouth, not big enough to dry it out too much, but then I've also got my water handy in case I do. So remember, breathing in, try on a count of 2. You can graduate later to 1, but I think 2 is a good number. Do your shh, and just see how long you can control it for. And you're just listening for evenness. You don't want it to be like shh. You want to see if you can really control that breath, because then you can turn that into the control of a sound. So from you can then turn that into Notice I'm really controlling and metering out how much air comes out when I sing. And that just takes practice. I did all these exercises for many years. The sh, the s, all that stuff. Excuse me. So these are some ideas. Give it a try. Write back later. Let me know how it goes. Feel free to contact me. Go to vocalcoachdebbie.com. It's my general coaching website. You can contact me from there. There's voice lessons there. I've got a free Patreon if you're interested in singing and music and songs and analysis and interpretation. Keep watching these episodes. I will be taking next week off because I'll be on a business trip, and then we'll get right back in. I've got some song analyses planned and lots more videos on technique. And after I'm back from my trip starting in mid-June 2026, I'll also be adding another weekly stream of karaoke where you can see me putting the techniques into play. And if you do join live or you watch it later, I'd love to get questions from you about the techniques I'm using. If you are wondering what I'm doing at a particular timestamp or something you saw me do that you were wondering about. So let's turn it into an educational experience. So I'm going to wrap up today's stream. I have been Vocal Coach Debbie. I hope you'll please follow or subscribe on my YouTube channel or the Twitch channel. Remember the free Patreon and, also a free Discord. But I don't have the link up to that. But you know what? You can find the link at, No, I think I forgot to put the link up. All right, there is a Discord, and I'll have to get you a link to that next time. Boing. It might be on the Vocal Coach Debbie page, so check that. I'll put it on the to-do list. Anyway, happy singing. Go find your voice. It's uniquely yours, and keep practicing. And let me know if you've got any questions or want to try a free lesson. Thanks. Good night.